My name is Steve. If you really want to understand market risk, really feel it in your gut, you can't just stare at charts and data. No, you have to go back. You have to understand the human beings, the psychology, the raw, intoxicating hope that drove an entire generation right over the edge of a cliff in 1929.
After the Great War, America felt invincible. The 20s were roaring, we had jazz, we had radio, we had the automobile. And there was this idea, this incredibly powerful belief that the old rules of the world just didn't apply anymore. People genuinely thought the engine of capitalism was so powerful it was on the brink of wiping out poverty for good. And the stock market? That was the golden ticket, the one-way elevator ride to this fantastic new future.
And you know what? For a long time, they weren't wrong. The market just exploded, up 400%. This wasn't just another bull market. People were calling it a new era, a fundamental change in how money worked. The gains proved the story was true. And the story, it just created more gains. It was the perfect feedback loop.
And this was the big change. Something absolutely radical happened. Before the 20s, the stock market was a private game for Wall Street insiders. But then, all of a sudden, the doors were thrown open. Everyone was an investor. The guy shining her shoes, the woman sewing a dress, the fellow working the assembly line. They were all watching that ticker tape. They were all in the game.
Now, this didn't just happen by accident. Oh no, it was engineered, and the chief architect of the whole thing was one man, Charles Mitchell. He was the head of National City Bank. They called him Sunshine Charlie, and he had a vision. He didn't just see the American public as people who should save their money. He saw them as customers for the market itself.
Mitchell's plan was, it was brilliant and absolutely terrifying. He opened up brokerage offices all over the country, in little towns that had never even seen one. He had this army of salesmen out there selling stocks like they were vacuum cleaners. They told an entire nation that old-school ideas like value, that was for granddads. The only thing that mattered anymore was growth. And he gave them the key to get it, buying on margin.
Let's be perfectly clear about what margin really is. It's a loan. It's debt. The broker lends you money so you can control way more stock than you could ever afford, and you use the stock you just bought as the collateral. It's an incredible tool. It makes your gains gigantic. But, and this is the part everybody always forgets, it magnifies your losses just as much.
And here was the number, the magic number, 10%. That's all you had to put down, 10 cents on the dollar. Just think about that kind of leverage. It was an offer that was impossible to refuse. It was like pouring gasoline on an already raging fire.
And the math? Oh, it was so simple, so beautiful. You walk in with your $1,000, Sunshine Charlie's bank gives you $9,000 more. All of a sudden, you're a player. You're controlling $10,000 worth of stock. If that stock goes up by just 10%, you've doubled your actual money. It was a flawless system with just one tiny, fatal flaw. It only worked if the market never, ever went down. So now we're in the summer of 1929. The party is absolutely roaring. The market's hitting new highs day after day. But if you bothered to look away from the ticker tape for just a second, if you looked at the real world out there, you could start to see the cracks.
This is what we call a disconnect. You had the stock market and what we call a blow-off top, that final insane surge that's driven by nothing but pure emotion. But underneath it all, the real economy, the thing that's supposed to support everything, it was starting to sputter. Steel production was falling. Fewer people were buying cars. The foundations of the building were rotting, but everybody was too busy admiring the view from the penthouse.
And if you want one sentence that captures the pure delusion of that moment, this is it. Just weeks before the crash, one of the most famous economists in the country, Irving Fisher, said this: a permanently high plateau. He wasn't some crackpot. This was what all the smart money believed, that this time it was different.
And then came October 24th, 1929, Black Thursday. The music just stopped. The market didn't just dip, it fell off a cliff at the opening bell. The panic that had been hiding just beneath the surface for months, it exploded. And that dream of the new era, it just vanished. Poof, gone in a matter of hours.
It was absolute chaos, just relentless selling. In the afternoon, a group of big shot bankers walked onto the floor of the exchange and started buying stocks, trying to stage a rescue, just like JP Morgan did back in '07. And it worked, for a minute. There was a little rally, a brief sigh of relief. But it was too late. The damage was done.
The system had already broken. Those dreaded margin call telegrams, they were already being printed and sent out all across America.
So, why are we talking about this? Why are we dissecting a crash that happened almost 100 years ago? Because history doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes. And the echoes of 1929, well, they're a lot louder today than you might think.
So let's bring it right here, to this moment. Forget the black and white photos for a second. Today is March 10th, 2026. The past is a lesson, but the risk is always now. As I'm talking to you, the S&P 500 is sitting at 6740. By any sane historical measure, we're standing on a pretty high plateau of our own. You can feel the optimism, can't you? And you can hear that same whisper from 1929, that little voice telling you that this time is different.
And this is what I need you to understand. Sunshine Charlie's 10% margin deal, that might seem like an antique. But the physics of leverage, they never change. The trap doesn't go away. It just gets a new name. Today we call it a zero-day option, where you can make a massive bet on where the market's going to be in a few hours. The tools are fancier, faster, but the risk of getting completely wiped out is exactly the same.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. The real lesson of 1929 isn't about a number on a chart. It's about people. It's about what happens when euphoria and leverage get mixed together, and everybody rushes to the exact same side of the boat. Remember Mitchell's new era. Remember Fisher's permanently high plateau. The next time you hear someone say the old rules don't apply anymore, that's the sound of the cliff starting to crumble. This is Steve. Watch your leverage.